Welcome to the virtual Sunday service for the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Lake Norman. Our fellowship walks diverse paths to find meaning and purpose, but we are united by our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all, and by the commitment to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Sandy McFeely, and I've been an active member of this congregation since 2013. Our chalice lighting words are from Christine Robinson. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we live together. Today our minister, the Reverend Pat Jobe, will be talking to us about what UUs do best: questioning, challenging authority, examining assumptions, especially our own. We are so pleased to have him with us today. To get ourselves ready to hear from Reverend Pat, let's consider some words from a couple of poets. One from pretty long ago and one more current. First, by Rania Maria Rilke, who wrote this in a letter to a 19-year-old cadet and aspiring poet. This was way back in the summer of 1903. Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. The point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then, gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. Second, you may be wondering, just what are these questions? Are they mere fantasies, or the heavy imponderables like, why am I here? If you don't know Billy Collins, you will soon hear about him from Reverend Pat. Billy Collins was both the U.S. Poet Laureate and the New York State Poet Laureate in the early years of this 21st century. And now from one of his poems is an example of what one unsolved question might look like. If an angel fell off a cloud, would he leave a hole in a river? And would the hole float along endlessly, filled with the silent letters of every angelic word?
The great German poet Rania Maria Rilke wrote these words: "Be patient toward all that is unresolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue." Here's a question to start us off in an extremely weird place. What if too much questioning, too many questions, questioning itself, were to become a mental illness? My dear friend is collecting disability payments right now because of her mental illness, and we are very close. I don't think I'm betraying her to tell you that sometimes we even laugh at her mental illness. She once asked me why she struggled so in her life to hold down a job, and this was my answer: dear beloved friend, if you were working for someone who asked you to paint a fence, this is how you would respond. You would say, yes, I know you need me to paint the fence, and I can see the paintbrush and the bucket of paint, and I can see the fence, and I will get right to it in just a moment, but let me ask you very quickly, have you considered another color for the fence? I know that white fences are very popular, but believe it or not, I just heard on public radio that yellow fences are easier to see from the road. And actually the same has proved true of fire trucks. studies have shown that people can see a fire truck approaching in their rearview mirror if it's yellow more so than if it's red. And that's why many fire trucks that are rolling off the assembly line today are yellow and not red. If your fence were painted yellow, that might allow people to avoid running into it. And by the way, are you sure you want to paint the fence with a brush? I know you've set a brush out here on the paint bucket, but I think a roller would be faster, even on a surface like the fence. When she was being questioned by a judge as to why she needed disability income and could not hold down a job, she told me that she spoke for 10 minutes. And at the end of the 10 minutes, the judge said, never mind. Clearly, you are qualified for disability income. Of course, I know that both mental illness and disability are very serious matters. But my dear friend and I have known each other for over 40 years, and we really can occasionally just relax around all the seriousness and have a good laugh. But is there not also a danger among Unitarian Universalists that our love of the questions might just sideline us and leave us discussing the painting of the fence until at last we realize there is among us a complete and utter inability to actually get the fence painted? In some circles it is known as stark, raving madness. But there are important questions to answer, and there are likely important questions to avoid. Unitarian Universalists aren't really interested in knowing how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, but rather we think it is important that all angels and all pinheads are treated equally and fairly. Here's the Billy Collins poem that deals with the age-old question. Of all the questions you might want to ask about angels, the only one you ever hear is how many can dance on the head of a pin. No curiosity about how they pass the eternal time besides circling the throne, chanting in Latin and delivering a crust of bread to a hermit on earth, or guiding a boy and a girl across a rickety wooden bridge. Do they fly through God's body and come out singing? Do they swing like children from the hinges of the spirit world, saying their names backward and forward? Do they sit alone in little gardens, changing colors? What about their sleeping habits, the fabric of their robes, their diet of unfiltered divine light? What goes on inside their luminous heads? Is there a wall there these tall presences can look over and see hell? If an angel fell off a cloud, would he leave a hole in a river, and would the hole float along endlessly, filled with the silent letters of every angelic word? If an angel delivered the mail, would he arrive in a blinding rush of wings, or would he just assume the appearance of the regular mailman and whistle up the driveway reading the postcards? No, the medieval theologians control the court. The only question you ever hear is about the little dance floor on the head of a pin, where halos are meant to converge and drift invisibly. It is designed to make us think in millions, billions, to make us run out of numbers and collapse into infinity. But perhaps the answer is a simple one. One female angel dancing alone in her stocking feet, a small jazz combo working in the background. She always sways like a branch in the wind, her beautiful eyes closed, and the tall, thin bassist leans over to glance at his watch because she has been dancing forever, and now it is very late, even for musicians. Finally, I have reached the point in this sermon where we need to take things a little more seriously. Are you finally ready? Our questions matter. If we are questioning how to win this election, we are skating on some thin ice. There is no way to know, especially at the national level. If you want to win a local election, I can give you lots of tips from my vast knowledge of grassroots politics. On the national level, we all fear it is a crapshoot. And my brothers and my sisters, it is a crapshoot. Regardless of how things turn out, it looks like we may be in for a few rough weeks after the election, where truth and lies will mix like pigment in my friend's paint bucket. And we will be faced with a debilitated sense of hopelessness as we work through it. And we may end up with a very strange color on our fence. Let's ask another serious question. What is the value of Unitarian Universalism right here, right now? One of the answers to that question I hear most often is the value of friendships. We like hanging out with people who agree with us, even if one of our most beloved principles is the inherent worth and dignity of all persons. There is a little bit of tension in that principle because there are always people who test it. In my 8 years of serving in Greenville, South Carolina, I met 5 people who said they left the congregation because they were rudely treated. I mentioned it often as a cautionary tale, but at one of our board meetings, the president challenged me. She said, "Really? Really? You know 5 people who left this congregation because they were rudely treated?" Before I could answer the question, a staff member said, "Kathy, it kind of hurts people's feelings when you call them crazy." Still, we soldier on. We question rudeness, but we also question crazy. It sometimes causes us problems. But for 80 years now, our National Association has survived all kinds of rudeness and crazy. And we are yet alive. For several hundred years before that, there were Unitarians and Universalists who carried on. But why? For what? UUs can now be found in almost every country in the world. Some of them were killed in Hitler's death camps. Some of them are oppressed today for religious liberalism that flows against the tide of dogmatic certainty. We are dogmatically uncertain and even suspicious and proud of it. Jim Price likes to joke that anywhere there are 2 Unitarians, there are at least 3 opinions. And we love to apply our opinionated independence to every question before us. When confronted by my fence-painting friend, many UUs would love to jump right in there and debate color and brush versus roller, or even what time of day it is best to paint. But remember, she is mentally ill. As you consider what questions matter and what questions don't matter, ask yourself these questions about your own personal beliefs. I found these from a business guru I admire named Seth Godin. Godin often writes about business, but I think he's really writing about fairness and justice and making things better for everybody. These are all ideas that appeal to most of us who are Unitarian Universalists. Ponder these questions about our personal beliefs. Do we need our beliefs to be true? This means that much of what we do to somehow prove our beliefs are true is wasted time and effort. If a belief is helping you make your way through the world, if it acts as a placebo, a balm, and a rubric, then that's sufficient. The problems occur when some people use our beliefs to manipulate us, when they prevent us from accomplishing our goals, or contributing to the well-being of those around us. End of quote. Does that make sense to you? Is the great seriousness with which we take our beliefs helping us or harming us? Do we have to be right? Or can we sometimes lose an argument or cede ground to an opponent in the name of keeping peace and building up harmony? Dale Carnegie says in his seminal book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that nobody ever wins an argument. It is not winning if the harm we do others in trying to win is so mean-spirited and hateful that others are humiliated or embarrassed by the brilliance of our arguments. Who needs that? Who needs that? I like that Seth Godin emphasizes promoting the well-being of others. What kind of world would we live in if everybody felt a degree of emotional commitment to the well-being of others? A friend of mine got out of jail one night, and we were walking the streets of Marion, North Carolina, processing his arrest for being with a bunch of young men who ran afoul of the law. I asked him, "What are you going to do to make the world a better place?" He thought about it for a second or two and then asked, "You mean paying taxes is not enough?" Most anybody who's involved in a religious community knows that paying taxes is not enough. Many government programs, like the distribution of U.S. Department of Agriculture surplus food, depend on partnerships with the religious community in order to make them work. Much work for the homeless, veterans, the arts, education, the list goes on, is not supported by the taxpayer. We are a whole culture of dependency on the generosity of folks like us. We need each other in order to paint a fence, feed a hungry neighbor, or create peace and harmony in our communities. So I ask you again, what kind of world would we live in if everybody felt a commitment, an emotional commitment to the well-being of others? These are the serious questions. These are the questions that challenge us well beyond how to paint a fence or what color to paint it. These are the questions that challenge us well beyond one angel dancing as the bass player checks his watch, remembering that eternity is a mighty long time. What questions do you have? What keeps you awake at night? I hope you are all sleeping well, even as we live through what feels like the strangest times in a long, long time. What questions do you have about the future of UUism in this congregation and in the wider world? What questions do you have as you think about members of your own family? Once my mother had fallen ill, I told the congregation that I am sorry. I am concerned when your mother is sick. But when my mother is sick, it's a whole different ballgame. How are your best selves coming out with those who are closest to you? How do our principles and our ethics inform the tenderness of our hearts as we negotiate the sometimes incredibly tough waters of life these days? Are we living up to our principles? Are we answering the calls of our best selves? I'd love to hear your answers to these questions. It's pretty easy to find me on Facebook, and my email address and phone number are on the website of the UU Fellowship of Lake Norman. Let's keep asking the important questions, but every now and then have a laugh over the color of the fence or how many angels dance on the head of a pin. I really appreciate all of you for listening and being part of Unitarian Universalism. No need to say it, but I will say it anyway. Without our commitment to each other, these services would not be happening. Please reach out to your friends through Facebook or email to invite them here or just to check on them. Make sure all is well and let them know we are connected to each other. As Red Skelton used to say at the end of his Sunday night broadcasts, all we really have in this old world is each other.
Morning, everybody. This is a song called The Colors of Disguise. Have you seen the colors of disguise? The late breaking news, it's an old pack of lies. Hope it don't take long to catch your breath. If you're chasing the truth, you'll be trampled to death. Throw yourself into the world again with only your soul your soul to defend. Look out for the snakes who guard the den. They'll steal your life, your soul to descend. Descend, descend. Well, have you seen the colors of the skies? Hey, the red, white, blues that they weave in your eyes. Hope it don't take long before you see it's the color of green for the powers that be. Watch out, don't you worry no more. Got your handle for sure. Go to work, have a drink. Don't you sweat, don't you blink. Don't you blink, don't you blink, don't you blink, no. Well, have you seen the colors of the skies? Hey, the land of the free has a shrinking in size. Hey, I hope it don't take long to rub your eyes, for the eagles of doom have been filling the skies. Watch out, don't you worry no more. Got your handle for sure. Go to work, have a drink. Don't you sweat, don't you blink. Don't you blink, don't you blink, don't you blink, oh. Have you seen the colors of the skies? Have you seen the colors of the skies? Tell me, have you seen the colors of the skies? Have you seen the colors of the skies? Woo-hoo. Take care.
Thanks to you, Reverend Pat, for your wise words and encouraging message today. And thank you, Mike, for musically reflecting Reverend Pat's message. And now for a few announcements. If you are a visitor to today's service, welcome. I'm so glad you chose to give our virtual service a try. If you like what you've seen so far and are wondering how to stay connected with our congregation, please reach out to our membership chair, Linda Heidenberg. Her email address may be found at the bottom of this screen. There's no practical way to pass a basket in a virtual service, but we really appreciate members for keeping current on their pledges. We want to be ready to operate at full speed when something a little closer to normal life resumes. Look for the mailing address for your gifts on this screen or in our newsletter. Not getting our newsletter? Well, please let Linda Heidenberg at our membership address know about that. She will fix it. We encourage members and friends to continue staying in touch with each other by phone, text, email, or whatever social media you use. These are terrible times, and hearing a familiar voice really does help. There are deep bonds within our community, and now, right now, is the time to make that extra effort to sustain them. Finally, at 11 o'clock this morning, we hope you will join us via Zoom to talk with Reverend Pat and other members and friends about today's service, about the things you question, and most anything else on your mind. The Zoom link for the discussion is very likely in a postscript to the newsletter that Regina, our editor-in-chief, kindly sent out over the weekend. If you didn't find it, didn't get it, just call or email me and I'll shoot it right to you. There's time, even if you have to refill your coffee cup first. Or look in last week's newsletter. We're going to use the same Zoom link for every after the service chat from now going forward. Thank you for spending this hour with us. And I leave you today with the hopeful words of Paul Robeson. Sorrow will one day turn to joy. All that breaks the heart and oppresses the soul will one day give place to peace and understanding, and everyone will be free. Go in peace.